Yeah, I don't really know where to start. So we worked on this in Cinder and Pure Data, originally with another team member who unfortunately could not join us, so we kind of carried on work quite compartmentalized and separate, and the first time the two patches have done anything together was today, so I don't feel like it went too badly considering that. Yeah, my Pure Data part started out when we were deciding what kind of messages we were going to send back and forth, and knowing that it was all had to be generative, no sample kind of data or anything. I started to think, I know, I'll make a kick drum synthesizer, so at least I can do like a tempo triggered drum and maybe build it into like a generative sequencer that way. And what started as a kick drum synth just grew and grew and grew and got heavily abused, and now there's basically just two kick drum synthesizers playing off against each other, and that's where all the sound comes from. The visuals are that you talk about.
And visuals are. I received the OSC messages from the music, so I just randomized some parameters which are based on the number of repetitions of the objects, and then the intensity of the volume or other parameters just put more and more intensity on the colors, and we can change shades. So it's kind of the start of the project also, but going to carry on.
Any questions for this group?
It's, for one part, it's just a basic like sine wave descending in pitch with a resonant filter, but then it's got 2-op frequency modulation on both channels that you can introduce a feedback loop into, so that you can start to kind of get that lower, kind of more resonant tone. But yeah, there was also some, it just kind of 2 copies of that same synth, which the version that's on the GitHub right now is just one of them, but I'll push this new version so you can try it out.
Could you just say something about your decision to not have the controls visible during the performance, but at the start and at the end?
Yes, because it's more about being controlled by the music than to act with the mouse. So I just added some keyboard shortcuts to trigger some colors. And so, yes.
You had a bit more of a narrative. You had dodgy bits and stuff like that's great. But
yeah.
it didn't really sort of develop, you're waiting for something like a storyline.
Yeah, it's all real time, so the story in the intro, the pieces were coming together, but then after a while, we certainly need more things happening.
Needs more possibility of a different
It's
evolution.
a prototype.
Can Cinder do also FFT, in theory?
Yes, sure.
Yes, but wasn't integrated into this patch.
Yes, it could be, but actually send me some volume information.
By RC.
But it could be with the microphone and having an array of values, FFT.
Or if at some point we can get both of them running on the same computer at the same time, which has not happened
That's
yet,
easy.
but yeah, you're right, possible.
Yeah, it's a Mac and a PC. So it could work on both ways,
I know, first time I've done a multi-person performance using the hotspot of my phone to synchronize all the stuff, but better than nothing, eh? Right, save it. Cool. Okay, cool, thanks.
Thank you very much. So that was performance number 2, AVP. Now comes performance number 3. So Boris, would you like to? This one, now we're going to outer space, to Esoterion universe.
No. Can I have a paper to take notes? Thank you. Bruce.
If someone wants more of these, let me know.
good, not bad. Yeah, it's very cheap. I always use it for the iPhone, it fits perfectly. Observe, you can regulate a little bit. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for switch off the lights right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyone else wants one of this? You have.
it was what, 3 people working on visuals and 1 girl working on people girl. She's also she was doing actually a very good job in sound. Yeah. And so yeah, the main premise is that we have this infinite space. Kind of when you work with visual and audio softwares, there is many times there is a timeline, and timeline is kind of infinite. But then you put things in it, and then you play it, and the result is not anymore infinite. It's more like layers and images, effects, and these kind of things. So we kind of reverse this, and we put the timeline. We kind of visualize the timeline. So these objects, planets, are what you put in the timeline, and then you drive around them, change their parameters, and they are when you go around, basically what they do visually and sonically, you hear and see that. Yeah, it's still the software.
Just putting the sound down. You have questions for Borut? Project?
Yeah.
One question. So, where you're moving the camera,
Yeah.
the camera goes nearer to an object, and the volume is louder. The proximity, and also when you shift left and right, the stereophonic is based on the camera position.
Yes, it's based on the camera position. Also, some other effects like reverb, and there are kind of 2 synthesizers, and the relationship between the 2 also changes. So it's a little bit more complicated, but that's the basic thing. Yeah.
Super.
If I may add, there was also the idea to avoid one-to-one mappings between sound and image, right? You went to a semantic approach?
Yeah. So basically we didn't use, although kind of in visuals you can see, but we didn't use categories like color, size, and this kind of thing. We use some semantic things like warmth, spikiness, or like smoothness, and this kind of names for variables, so they can be interpreted independently in the visual part and in the sonic part. Basically the visual part generates the data, but it's sent via OSC. So this is made in open frameworks, and the sonic part is made in Max. So it sends the data via OSC to Max, and then it's basically one object is one generator object in Max. Any more questions?
So it's the video that produces the audio, which
Video
usually is the
sends,
opposite.
the video sends the OSC data
And
to audio.
which is very unique. Usually is the opposite.
But the idea is to have generator at one side, but the data is actually exact same data that goes to the drawing part. So basically there's a synthesizing part and the camera tracking, and then this goes to drawing part, which uses exactly the same data as Max patch. So this synthesizers could be even separate. Okay.
Thank you very much. So now we have Letty. Gen.AV. Switch to this side.
Here?
No, she will stay.
Okay.
So now we'll have performance number 4, GSAV. Katie, would you like to talk a little bit about the project and how it works?
There were four of us. And during the planning stages, we just wanted to create an instrument where the performer always had to be giving the computer input, so it's not, so the audience isn't wondering if they're checking email or something like that. So, and we decided on using gesture follower, Miguel. Using a gesture follower to recognize certain gestures and using the mesh object because it's so plentiful as far as visual is concerned. Right now, the sound is coming from samples, but it should be that one thing we also wanted to do was for the gesture to inform the visuals, but the visuals would inform the sound. And right now it's just samples, but the decisions based on color and the fill and the stroke and the size and the number of triangles and edges and vertices and everything that creates the mesh should be able to define the sound. So I guess that's the next step. And that's it.
Go. Let's talk about the gesture.
What she said. Yeah, no, it's a very it's a gesture following system developed by Baptiste Caranier, who's sitting somewhere around here.
Almost in the box.
Yeah, and so basically there's a set of pre-recorded gestures, and this was to be multi-touch in a colorless interface. So things like circles, squares, triangles, and there's a bank. We decided on 5 gestures initially, and there's a bank of 5 granular synthesizers. So basically, they're all playing at the same time, but depending on the probability of one of the gestures being correct, that's the synthesizer that sounds loudest. And then qualities of the gesture, how fast the direction, it's played forwards or backwards, etc. Certain parameters of the gesture control things like amplitude and pitch, etc.
Questions?
So you're feeding input into this program through making gestures, right? So I think it'd be really cool if you could get a better idea of like you inputting the gestures into this machine. So if you put any thought into like how maybe you could have like a more visual to the audience way of actually what gestures you're putting in rather than like little trackpads hard to see sort of thing.
I don't know. I've thought of that, but since there are only 5 gestures, I thought it would be getting really. It would be boring to watch a one-to-one representation of the gestures. What I did was not on purpose, but I liked it better because even though I'm always inputting X, Y information for the mesh, it kind of decides what gesture, tries to predict what gesture I'm going to use, and then creates a sound from that, as opposed to, okay, I made this gesture, so the visual is like this. So what I did was to try to use repetition and size as opposed to representation of gesture.
questions?
Okay. How is the audio data being mapped to the visuals?
Sorry?
How is the audio data being mapped to the visuals?
It's not.
Yeah, right now it's just
Only the gesture.
yeah, it's just
sorry.
recognizing the
It's
gesture.
recognizing the gesture, however partial it is. I mean, having said that there's a vocabulary, it doesn't mean that you're doing circles and triangles, but it tries to guess from anything you do on the XY coordinates. So the idea is that you have that as an input, and that's kind of what you're playing with, and that triggers both the sound and the visuals based on the actual gestural input, rather than one controlling the other.
Hopefully it'll be like that soon.
Any more questions? Thank you very much. Would you like to say it? So that was project number 4, GSAV, and now we have the last performance, which is extra evaluations. So those of you who were filling in the questionnaire, thank you very much. That part is over. So please give me the papers when it's over. Now we'll demo the last project called Draw Synth, by Antonio, George, and Diego. Does you prefer? Yeah. Already have the cables there. Do you want HDMI? When you plug HDMI? Yeah.
Come al solito mi perdo, sono tardi perché...
Versi solamente... Ci sei arrivato dopo Blanca, no?
Ah, sono arrivato alla seconda, sì. Ah, c'è la fine della prima. Vabbè, tu lo conosci qua, mi perdo sempre, poi arrivo sempre di notte. Immaginavo fosse così.
Sono un demo.
Project is basically it started out as a drawing tool, and then the group asked me to. No, basically what happened is that we needed to create this visual tool to perform with sound as well, and I was working on this tool, so I adapted this tool. That at the beginning was just a 2D tool, but for doing other things, and then I started playing around with the 3D and colors, and just used an add-on of open frameworks, and I assigned the values of X and Y and Z and the colors to the bank of scene, and this is what is playing just FM and C. And basically the dots are supposed to be carrier. What the other name? So they two dots create a scene, FM modulation. And pretty much that's it.
Which add-on do you use for synthesis?
Maxi.
Which was quite a lot built in-house here at Goldsmiths.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Tony?
Yeah. Which of the two dots is the carrier and which one is the modulator?
It goes 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. But I mean that's the it's not really working very well.
So your first two dots make one synth, kind of, and then the third one, what happens? Like, how does the audio work?
It's just a, can I say,
Placeholder.
yeah, I mean, are you asking what happens after that?
How does the synth play according to the dots? Like, does the line curve? How does it work, basically?
Well, each dot has 3 dimensions, and there is a thing that so in each thing there are the 4 values, the 3 dimensions and the color. So
keep on modulate that. The more you change the shape, the more you change the audio outcome.
Did you implement it for any kind of a touch surface?
No, that's this is what I'd like to do. Actually, also gesture could be interesting. Actually, could be very interesting. But I think touch is I don't know, when you touch something, you do have a feedback, like an instant feedback. So it might be more efficient. But you know, it's open to exploration, experimentation.
Second question. And do you think you can have layers for composing the image, because you are talking about the you have a three-dimensional values going on the dot, but it would be interesting as well, because you have these levels of opacity and twist and turning on. I don't know, is any chance to import anything else like
to import something? Not at the moment. But importing like what objects, the 3D objects or shapes. No, I didn't think of that. The idea was more, you know, having a black canvas, and generating, like playing with that. So starting from zero, see what happens.
Yeah, but as we have like these layers canvas nowadays, so any canvas is like a matter of layers, and that was interesting as well, because you actually have already that levels of opacity, and when it falls, it gets to another kind of dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a like big problem. One of the big problems is that I'm not able to draw in 3D.
Deep motion or something like that.
Yeah, I mean when you draw into these when you go in 3D mount the mouse, I'm not able to get the Z position of the mouse. So if anybody knows how to do that.
Thank you very much, Andrea. So that brings us to the conclusion of the session. I hope you enjoy the projects. If you have any additional question to any previous groups or any comments you want to add, feel free. Otherwise, there's the after event, which will probably be in a pub nearby. So if you want to continue, usually I think a consensual one is New Cross House. So if you want to go there, so it's opposite venue in the